you should be knowing the researchers as well as you know your family, especially in the core of your work. Not to say you got to know everybody, but at the core, you should be able to talk to and pinpoint their work. Are you tired of hearing from your advisor or your dissertation committee that your dissertation literature review is reading like an annotated bibliography? Are you tired of seeing written in your feedback is that you should be doing more synthesizing than summarizing, but you have no clue what the difference are, and you're not sure why they're telling you this, and you're not sure how to fix it? If so, you're going to want to watch today's episode of From ABD to PhD show. This is episode 2 of a 5-part series titled Based on a True Dissertation, where I'm going to talk about real discussions around real research issues that are happening for doctoral students when we are going out to do workshops with our clients, and also things that we are seeing in our velocity coaching program that you can take from to make your process that much faster. And so on today's episode, we are going to talk about being lost in the lit review, and here's the way out. I'm looking forward to this episode because I can't wait to talk with you about this, because some of you all have been lost in the literature review too long and you don't have a way out. So today we're going to talk about all the way to get you out of the process. And for those of you who are just tuning in, my name is Dr. Ramon Goings, and I'm founder of Done Dissertation. And at Done Dissertation, our whole goal is to help demystify the dissertation process so that you can write and defend your dissertation in record time. And so in today's episode, I want to talk about one of the most common topics we hear about when we do workshops, and that is the literature review. Let me know in the comments right now, is the literature review one of their favorite or one of the worst aspects of writing your dissertation? Let me know in the chat. And for those of you who are watching who have already earned your doctorate, let me know as well, because I would say without a doubt, when I've done workshops, I would say the number one challenge that I hear from doctoral students around writing their dissertation is dealing with the literature review. I don't know what it is about the literature review. It's something about it that makes it so challenging. And so I want to give you a way out in terms of how to think through and conceptualize writing the literature review. Because what I found from working with students is not necessarily that you despise the literature review, which could be a component of it because it just feels so daunting. It's so big. But a lot of times I found when I get to talk with doctoral students and talk to our clients, sometimes before they start working with us, they don't have a strategy on how to write the literature review. And so literally I'm going to give you the strategy today so that you can, start to implement. And if you're someone who would say, hey, I like the strategy, but I want someone to look at my work, what I would invite you to do is actually to apply and schedule a consultation with us in the Velocity Coaching Program to get the support where we can actually look at your writing and give you more hands-on feedback. But to see if you're eligible to work with us in the Velocity Coaching Program, go ahead and schedule a complimentary consultation by going to www.velocitydissertation.com, or you can scan the QR code that is here on your screen. Now, let's get into this thing. So, I want to give you first the strategy. And I like to think about the whole research process and how to write using acronyms, because I think sometimes it's easier to distill information. And so, the acronym I'm going to give for you today to remember around how to think through and your strategy from now on to writing a literature review is UTIP. 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 And what UTIP stands for? It stands for first, understanding the scholarly conversation, being able to tell the story that's driving the conversation, identifying where the conversation needs to go. And then the last component of it is that you are going to be the person to actually position your study as the change to the conversation. So, what I want to do is unpack each of these phases of the UTIP process so that you know how to apply them and how to think through them with your work. So, the first part is understanding the scholarly conversation. Now, when we are trying to understand the scholarly conversation, what I am meaning is that before you can write a literature review in particular, because your whole intent of the lit review is to be able to distill what is the conversation that is happening in my area, in my sphere around my dissertation topic. If you don't know what the conversation is, how could you ever write that up? So the foundation of writing a literature review is that you have to understand what is the scholarly conversation. And I want to give you an assessment, a question that if you ask yourself this and you don't know all the answers, you might not be quite ready yet. But if you do know the answer to this question, I feel like you are ready to either write your dissertation and or defend your ideas. And so this question is, who are the key scholars on my topic? What have those scholars explored? And then how does my dissertation make a contribution to that research area in particular? This at the core is what you'll be talking about in your literature review, but these are questions at a core you should be able to understand around the scholarly discourse in your area. I always give the analogy that you should be able to talk about the researchers work in your area as if you're talking about siblings or relatives, right? When you do cookouts, summertime, you do cookouts, you know that there's always going to be that one cousin that shows up late to the cookout. And even though they were supposed to bring something important dish that was supposed to be happening, but they always show up an hour and a half, 2 hours late. You know that's going to happen because you know those people very well. You should be knowing the researchers as well as you know your family members, especially in the core of your work. Not to say you got to know everybody, but at the core, you should be able to talk to and pinpoint their work. And to give an example, why sometimes this stuff actually helps you in the field. One time I was at a conference, I was at the American Education Research Association conference, and I was doing a roundtable presentation and I was presenting my work, and someone was sitting next to me. I didn't know who she was, but she was sitting next to me, and we were talking in between the presentations, and she was like, "Oh, I'm so and so." I was like, "Oh my God, did you write this paper in 2013 about a black woman doing X, Y, and Z?" And she was like, "Oh my God, you knew that?" And I said, "Yeah, I read all your work." And she's like, "Oh my God, it's phenomenal! Like, it's so excited. I'm happy that we're able to chat. Here's my number. Like, reach out so that we can stay connected. Because I know as you're going through this process, you may need support with tenure promotion, whatever." And that person has been a great support to this day, just from that one conversation. But I knew their work. And it just so happened they were sitting next to me. Out of all the places in the world, I think it was in Chicago at the time, or yeah, I think it was in Chicago. This person happened to be sitting next to me. No, I'm sorry, it was in San Antonio, Texas. That's where it was. The person happened to be sitting next to me out of all the round tables that could have been done, that she sat next to me that particular day, but I knew her work. This is why it's important. You have to first understand the scholarly conversation. And no chair or advisor can do that part for you. This is the part where you're building your expertise. You got to do the reading. To be quite frank with you, you have to be able to do the reading. This is something that's going to be the foundation of writing your literature review. So at the core, you tip. First thing first is that you're going to understand the scholarly conversation. Second is that you are going to need to be able to tell the story that is driving the conversation. And so when I'm talking about telling the story, it's one thing to understand that, scholar A talked about this, scholar B talked about this, but what is the story that you're going to bring together to write this up? Because what I see a lot of students doing with their literature reviews, a lot of times what they're doing is believing in some of these things that literature reviews are not. And what that means is, a lot of times you will say in a literature review, I'm just going to write about every study that exists on my topic and what they've concluded. And I'm just going to explain the literature. That is indeed what a literature review is not. And so when you are trying to tell the story that is driving the conversation, you do not want to just start stating what everybody else has said. No, when you're telling a story, you are going to want to bring the literature together. And so what that looks like is that maybe you have to give some context around, there is much conversation around X topic. For example, scholar camp A thinks about the topic through this lens, camp B thinks about the topic through this lens. However, both of them are missing this particular thing. And because of that, this is where I want my dissertation to expand. That is getting at telling the story because you being able to see these camps of researchers, it wasn't that these studies were telling each other that they don't agree necessarily, but you as the informed researcher have like distilled what was happening in your scholarly conversation where you can then tell a more cohesive story about what was going on to say that, hey, there's actually this one topic that we all care so passionately about, but there are two camps of researchers that look at these things very differently. And however, I want to focus on a new way based on the work that I'm trying to do with my dissertation. This is how you go about telling the story that is driving the conversation with your dissertation. If this has been of value to you so far, hit the subscribe button. Follow us if you're watching us on LinkedIn or Facebook. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe button and share this with somebody. Don't hold on to this information. If you know there are people in your cohort, in your program who need support with their literature review, send them this video. This is literally the thought process that goes into writing a literature review. And I promise you, most courses won't teach it to you like this in a way that you can distill the information. So now, once we understand the scholarly conversation, and then we're able to tell the story driving the conversation, you then position yourself to say where the conversation needs to go. And then you're also able to position your study as the change. So in that example I gave, when we have, camp A of scholars, camp B of scholars, that's you kind of telling the story. But then you're saying, hey, there's a limitation on both of these camps of scholars' work. This limitation is X, Y, and Z. That is you now positioning your study as in you kind of setting things up as to the where the change in the conversation needs to go. Because when you disagree with these cancer researchers, you're not just going to say that. You're going to say, hey, they missed this particular thing. So what that does now is acknowledge what past researchers have done, but then kind of slide them and move them to the side. And then kind of you be able to step up to the forefront and say, hey, here's where my work needs to go. That's what you're trying to do in this literature review. And I promise you, when you start to do this, it will make your life a lot easier. And one thing that I found is that, once you get past this idea of being able to apply this UTIP process and recognizing that when you're writing a literature review, it's not stating what every other topic has concluded or just an explanation of the literature. What typically will come up for most folks is that they keep getting this feedback that, you know, you need to be doing more synthesizing, but currently you're just doing summarizing of the literature. If you apply YouTube correctly, you will be doing definitely synthesizing versus summarizing. But what I've come to learn is that sometimes this can be a challenge for folks. And as a result of it being a challenge, I created a training, a free training that you can access right now. That's called Elevate Your Academic Writing, and it teaches you our formula on how to engage in synthesizing the literature and how to write it up with actual concrete, real examples from research studies published. So if you want to get access to the training, you can scan the QR code that is here, or you can go to www.thedonedissertation.com/elevate because you get access to this training. Because one of the things that we found, one of the challenges that you all might be having is that the writing, right? It's like, how do I think about writing the literature review and how do I do this synthesizing that people keep asking me about and no one's teaching me? I literally have distilled this down and give you a formula that you can write and implement with your writing and practice with immediately that will get you to where you need to go. So if that's you, I would just invite you to download this free training called Elevate Your Academic Writing. I promise you, you will learn so much from this training and it will give you the insight that you need immediately to take action to improve your writing. Again, grab this training. Don't miss out. It's complimentary. Don't worry. It's on us because I want to give you all the support because if you all can adapt and get this process down with the writing, you know, you all may not need us at Dungeon Station, and that's cool because we know there are gonna be certain folks who say, "Hey, I got this training, I get how to do the writing, but I want someone to take a look at it and give me feedback." And so, if you fall into that boat where you say, "Shoot, I want to get the support from the training, but I also want someone to look at my writing," then what I would suggest is that you actually schedule a complimentary consultation with us to learn more about the Velocity Coaching Program where we are taking a hands-on approach with your work, diving into the writing, giving you feedback on your writing, really like taking and piecing up things apart so that you know how to improve your academic writing, and having hands-on support from myself and coaches who have years of experience with helping doctoral students like you get to the finish line. If that's you, then I would invite you to schedule a complimentary consultation, and you can do so by going to www.velocitydissertation.com to schedule that. You'll go on the page to learn more about the program, and you can tap on one of the buttons that says, fill out your consultation form. Take you right to it, and you can schedule something with the team, so we can learn more about how we can support you to the finish line. And again, when you're thinking about the literature review, and I have another video that you can all watch that we will link um, here in a little bit, in the notes as well, is that it's on like the mistakes that we're seeing doctoral students make when writing the literature review. And I take it up a notch with this as well and give you some other strategies, tactical strategies on writing your literature review. But we know that when we're thinking about the lit review, this is the challenge that we see so many students doing. And then also with that, seeing so many students floundering because they figure out, oh my gosh, I have so much to read. How do I distill all this information? That is what we help you do and help you give you strategy around in our Velocity program on how to do this based on what your dissertation is about, based on your doctoral program in particular. And so, you definitely want to tune in and catch up with us and schedule your consultation to learn more about how we can help you get to the finish line. Let me know in the comments, what questions do you have about the literature review? Because we're always trying to be responsive to questions you all might have, and based on your questions I may do other shorter form videos or blog posts and things responding to those questions. So the more that you engage with us in the comments, the more insights and more valuable content that we can provide for you all to help support you all. But again, with that said, make sure that you hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel. We've increased it. It used to be for a while that 8% of our viewers were people who are subscribed to us. Now we're at about 24%. But I'm looking to get more around the 50% mark. That's my next goal, is to get us to 50% of folks who view us are actually subscribed. So if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube page yet at Done Dissertation, make sure you do that. Hit the subscribe button. It'll take you 2 seconds to do. Hit the notification bell so that you know when new episodes come out of our content. And again, I want to say thank you so much for watching this episode from ABD to PhD Show. My name is Dr. Ramon Goings. I'm founder of Done Dissertation. And until next time, I wish you all a Done Dissertation. Take care.